Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Mario from Elektron, and this is the Model Cycles. Model Cycles is an FM-based drum machine groovebox synthesizer.
And I'm Taylor from Elektron. This is the Model Samples, which is also a 6-track groovebox, but it's got digital samples. There's no synth engine in it, which means you have to load your own sounds or use some of the factory presets that come loaded on Model Samples.
Yeah, and one thing that you could tell straight off the bat, they look pretty similar, right? This is our Model Series, and with the Model Series, what Elektron is basically doing is getting the Elektron experience, Elektron sequencer with all the parameter locks and all of the sequence and tricks that you might know, and some of you might be the first time. It's a perfect way to kind of wrap that whole Elektron workflow into one device.
Yeah, it's very much based around the sequencer, the tracks, building out compositions through parameter locks and different scale per patterns and stuff we'll get into. We'll talk about that in a minute. But just for anyone that doesn't know, the way that it works, especially with something like the Model Samples here, is you can put a sample, whether it's just a one-shot sound or an entire like loop like that, on a particular track, and then you can control the sound of that with the individual controls here, like the pitch, which should go a little crazy, or something like the cutoff, like the filter of the drum track. And it's all meant to give you some unique control over your samples, so you're not just stuck with what's in there. You can have some control manipulation to kind of create different sounding things as you progress. But something like the Model Cycles kind of works a little bit differently, though.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the same approach where you have 6 tracks, but instead of samples, the Cycles is using FM synthesis. So we could talk about the different machines, as Elektron likes to call it, that are in the device. There's 6 different machines. And I could go through them and give you a sound example.
Yeah.
The first one being kick, snare, metal, perk, tone, and a chord generator. The model cycles breaks out these FM synthesis into different machines, giving the user quick access and really straight to the point parameter changes so you could start getting stuff musically. And on the model cycles and the model samples, you have the Elektron sequencer. So let's go ahead and just make a sequence, and the best way to explain this sequencer is to just use it.
Cool. Yeah.
Press play. I'm going to put these steps. Cool. So cool. I'm going to add a little bit of variety with parameter locking. So on this step, I want to add some decay. This one, tune down a little bit, and just start changing parameters on each step.
It's cool. It's making it sound like an open hi-hat.
Yep.
And since we're synced here, I can just start laying snare hits down.
Mm-hmm. And not only do you have the step sequencer where you could enter trigs, but you could also, you want to play, right? So if I hold record and play, you can see live recording.
Nice. The pad's velocity sensitive too, right? So you can
yes, exactly.
Light, heavy taps.
Let me. I think I had it on fixed velocity, so I'll show that on like this thing. So I'm gonna clear this hi-hat, and you could hear that the pads are velocity sensitive. So I'll go ahead and record that in. Cool. And then also the step buttons on the bottom could be used chromatically.
So it might be better to talk about some more things about the model series within the context of the performance we just did. Mario's leading, his clock, and the model samples here is following. And then I've got some samples from Splice that I downloaded here across the tracks. A little ambient rain sound in the background on track 1. Track 2's got the guitar part, and then I was bringing in this kind of fluty synth part in the beginning, right? But again, just mixing stuff, just kind of bringing things in, bringing some backing tracks up to help fill out some of the space that the model cycles was doing.
And with the model cycles, I have sending out clock to the model sample, so I have control of all of the MIDI sync happening. And now you could hear the FM parts of the song being built on top of the samples that he has. And then from here, we just started building the track with drums.
Right. So the next pattern, which we'll flip to in a second, filtered out drums. And again, the samples works great at just EQing stuff out so you can help other things find their space. So that drum track here has got really high pass on it. We're just getting the kind of the tops of it. The cycles is filling out that other extra space in the bottom there. And then towards the end of the track here, I was adding tons of reverb, tons of delay, just doing this cascading beat repeat thing to bring us into this new part of the beat, right? Into like actual start of the song. Once again, it's those performance things, knob per function, really quick dynamic control.
Yeah, exactly. And with the samples, he had the samples that were there already. You could already hear there was a rhythm to it. And so in order to kind of enhance it with the FM drums, added the kick, hi-hat, snare patterns on top just to give it a little bit more beefiness that was already there.
Totally. And with retrig, in this part I was just doing some hi-hat stuff right there on track 5, yeah. So hitting all the samples on top is going to overplay on top of everything. And you hear that commotion there. But the retrig function was cool because you can do always on here. And then every time I'm coming to the pad, it's always going to have that ratcheted up hi-hat sound. Just to add, again, some dynamic flavor to it when we were going through the track, right?
This is what I use on top of the sample. So on its own, it kind of has its own kind of feel. But when you start bringing in the samples, it makes a little bit more sense. It's a little not too overbearing, but just, adding a little sense here and there.
So then out of here, going into kind of like our breakdown part, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. See, I got all the delay and reverb on track. So again, pulling the same trick here, loading up delay and reverb to transition out of the track. But again, just using model samples like a mixer, cutting out frequencies, adding some different effects to the drums will really help bring out some of the other timbres of the other samples you have going on.
Yeah.
So you're not muddying up too much stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And with this performance too, it was kind of, I knew what I had to use. I knew the space that I had to fill with the FM synthesis and with the samples. So obviously it's going to be different settings on how you use the samples and how you use the different synthesis. We prepared the sequence out so that it's like a full song, but the main elements of in terms of playability was us unmuting tracks, changing parameters on the fly, adding the effects on it. And that's what added to the whole performance, because we can press play and it'll sound good, but it'll sound repetitive. So with the model series and the one output function, it makes it easier to get super interesting and do a very performative, add performant elements.
Totally. I'll admit we had a little help from the LFO. Yes. I did, at least.
Yes.
So on track 4 here, I had this, see if I can mute everything so we can hear just track 4 doing its thing. So here it's doing this like kind of tremolo-y.
Yeah.
And I gotta turn way down. I gotta turn it up a little bit here. But that's not how the original sample sounds. I mean, the original sample sounds, nice. It's got its own kind of waviness to it, but not like staccato-y, affected moves. So again, that's another thing you can do to build some dynamics.
Yeah.
And it's per track, so you can do it across every track. And the Cycles has.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a LFO per track, and so you could hear it on this sound that I have. Let me you could kind of hear it. It's being sent to the shape. But if I start getting a little drastic with it, and with that, an LFO, it's assigned to any of the parameters that you want on the device. And with synthesis, you get very interesting sonic capabilities, but with samples, using that LFO on start point, or there's a lot of different ways that you could go that you don't necessarily think about samples that way all the time. What I really like about it is the whole automation that the device has, the capability of automating parameters with the LFO and the parameter locking, as we showed before, where I could press a step here, I want the pitch to be down, the decay to be up. So with the performance, that's all stuff that we had sequenced in already, and us knowing, okay, cool, we have the cool parameter locks and sequencing tricks. Now I could explore the device and change the way it sounds, versus having to worry about like bringing in bringing in certain elements, because if you have it sequenced in a way in a device, then you don't have to worry about that. It's like the device is like your bandmate.
Totally.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on the model cycles that I like. Like I said, it's a Groovebox drum machine synthesizer, and you could use it that way, like make a full beat on it. But then it's also really fun to just explore the sound capabilities that it has. So, for example, the chord generator is one of my favorite things, because I know some music theory, but it's nice to be able to just press something and it always sounds good, right? And within the model cycles, it is FM that we, something like this, that we're all familiar with how FM sounds, but you could get really wild with it, setting the LFO to random and at a high like audio rate. Like that doesn't sound as nice as
Yeah, and certainly if you're just getting started, this is really a great place to start when you're talking sequencers, groove boxes.
Yeah.
Just trying to understand how samples work and how you can manipulate them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very easy, intuitive way to get lost in a lot of that stuff. But yeah, there's lots of ways to use model samples. Especially when you're loading in stuff from Splice or
Yes.
Loopmasters or sample libraries that you already have, your own favorite sounds. This really is your box once it comes to
Yeah.
you. It's yours.
Yeah, with the Elektron sequencer, it really does add this whole other element where you can use it as a very performative tool where you're live parameter locking stuff in. Or you could use the capabilities of Elektron sequencer by parameter locking and setting it and forgetting it. Basically, like you said, having it be the loop, but it only comes in every first time every 3 bars, first time every 4 bars. So it's face value. It looks like cool. You're gonna get cool little drum machine that sounds cool, but it's one of those instruments that I feel as you start learning it, it starts to show more of what it's capable of and what you are capable of as a user.
Yeah. And obviously with anything, there's limitations, right? So
Yeah.
you're not going to get an entire world of sound out of this. I mean, even though it is a sampler, or a sample based sequencer groove box, you can do a lot with it. But the limitation is nice sometimes. It helps you focus.
Yeah, definitely. And the way it's laid out, it's inviting to perform.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot more to talk about with Model Series.
Yes.
And if you want to find out more information, check out elektron.se, check out elektronauts.com, type Elektron into YouTube, subscribe to this YouTube channel for more Elektron content. And thank you very much for watching. We appreciate it.
Thank you.